Here we are, back to it again on the Steve Gruber Show. Excuse me, glad to have you here as I have a little something in my throat. It happens, you know, when you talk that long every day. Just trying to get the truth to you every single day. And joining me now is J. Christian Adams, president of the Public Interest Legal Foundation. Christian, good to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so non-citizens being added to states' voter rolls to the DMV. You know, I never thought about this ahead of time. Of course, other people did. People that are craftier than I am thought about, you know, the motor voter laws. Hey, brilliant idea. Get them registered, and then, woof, we can just use that machine to register people that should not be voting. Some states finding thousands of people registered illegally, aren't they?
Well, look, the origin story of this is Pennsylvania. We've been litigating in Pennsylvania against the Department of State for 6 years now to get the records. 20 years ago, actually in 1996, they started registering non-citizens through the PennDOT process by accident. And 20 years later, we still don't have all the answers. We've been suing in federal court. We won on the trial court. We're going to the Third Circuit because they appealed it to hide the facts. And so, you know, Pennsylvania's not the only place. I see registration records from all over the country we've collected where people actually tell the DMV they're not a citizen and they're still getting registered.
So how would they be able to tell them they're not a citizen? Look, I'm not a citizen. Why would it go forward?
Because the motor voter law has a standard federal form. In other words, Congress normalized and the federal form and said, one of the questions you have to ask is, are you a U.S. citizen? And people are marking the federal form no and still getting registered across the country. They're telling election officials they're not citizens and they're still getting registered. There is a level of incompetency here that is astounding.
Is it incompetence or is it by design, Christian?
I think it's largely. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I've been studying this for years, and we've done litigation in all over the country: Boston, Alameda, Pennsylvania, Allegheny, Pittsburgh. Detroit. And from what I can see, it's grotesque incompetence. Now, there could be some nefarious play on the edges. I'm not dismissing that possibility. But when you really look at it over the course of years and years of work and studying decades of behavior, the level of incompetence rises to the top of the heap.
So the question then becomes, with this incompetence, with this infiltration of the voter rolls by people that should not be there, and it looks to be look, it's by design. You know, when people say they're automatically registered to vote, and now in some states, you can pre-register at 16, right? 16. If you have a driver's license, you can pre-register. That's the new little trick they're playing. But what is the practical impact on elections? Do 1,000 illegal voters make it? In Pennsylvania, 10,000, 100,000? What's the real number?
That's why we've been suing Pennsylvania, because we know for a fact, no one's disputing it, not even the defendants, that PennDOT was allowing aliens to register for 20 years. So it's a great place to get the answer to your question. And the way you get the answer to the question is to look at the documents, right? To actually get the documents under the motor voter law, which gives you the right to ask for these documents, a federal law. This isn't any ordinary FOIA. This is a federal law that we use. And those answers lie in those records that Pennsylvania continues to hide from the public. And so, look, we also have North Carolina. You ought to read a report called Motor Voter at 30, where we get into the bowels of North Carolina's non-citizen registration, because we got the documents there after a court victory. And you could see they had about 9,000 non-citizens registered in North Carolina. Almost all of them came through the motor voter process, and almost all of them were legal residents. They weren't illegals. And what difference does that make, by the way? It's almost worse to have a green card holder register, because they were on their way to citizenship and they screw it up and can get deported if they register accidentally. So in North Carolina,
so what you're saying, though, what you're saying is
about
incompetence. A lot of these folks aren't registering intentionally. It's just the way the mechanism works. Click, click,
That's
click,
exactly
click,
right.
boom, 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 boom.
Right. It flashes on the screen, and
Right.
most of us are used to saying no to, like, do you want to buy a new car? Do you want to refinance your house? No, 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 none of this. And so the point is that it flashes on the screen, and they just like want to get through the window.
Right. They just want to get through the window. So they just, right. People are in a hurry. People don't read
Hit
it.
anything.
People have a lack of attention. People have ADD. People like me end up, doing things like that. So but what's the practical impact? In North Carolina, 9,000 illegals that are registered, they're not all going to vote, obviously. I don't know if any of them are going to vote. Some of them probably will. But it seems like it's not enough we should clean it up. No question. Get that out of there. But 9,000 votes in a state with 15, 16 electoral college votes should not be determinative. Probably not, anyhow. But if the numbers are larger in Pennsylvania, where the difference could be 50,000 votes on election day, it could make a huge difference, right?
Yeah, and in Pennsylvania, we're getting indications the number was between 10,000 and originally they said 100,000, but they've dialed that way back. Look, these are not illegals in North Carolina. They're almost all green card holders who got registered to vote, with a couple of exceptions. You ask what difference does it make? One vote makes a difference. We have a database at the Public Interest Legal Foundation called the Tie Election Database that has like 700 tie elections around the country in the last couple of years. So one vote can make a difference, and that's why you should all go vote, because your vote can change the outcome.
In Michigan now, you're not allowed to challenge that, by the way. You're not allowed to challenge an election for fraud and so forth. They changed the law. You basically can't challenge an election in Michigan. You have to accept it unless some law enforcement person, steps in. It's a big fiasco now if you try to. And that's what the Democrats want to do. They want mail-in ballots. They don't want you to be able to challenge an election. They want all of these things. They don't care. They don't care if illegals are registered to vote. They want 16-year-olds to vote. Do you think you would have been a capable voter at 16 years of age? I know I would have been an idiot at 16, right? Just saying.
Yeah, so Michigan, you've got the most partisan Secretary of State in the country. We're suing her over dead voters in Michigan. The case is now before the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. She won't compromise in the slightest to remove her mistake.
As she's required to do by the Constitution, and voters in 2020 put in this thing called Voters Not Politicians. She's being the most political person of all, and she backed that effort. And she's the one that sent out all the applications for mail-in ballots in 2020, which was not allowed. It was against the law, but there was no penalty for it, which I'm sure her and Dana Nessel, the AG, researched. Oh, you can't do that, but it doesn't matter because there's no penalty for it. There's no punishment, so you might as well do it, which they did. And there's no punishment or penalty for not doing what the Constitution of the state of Michigan requires, which is cleaning up the voter rolls. Real quickly, I'll give you the last word. You got about 20 seconds.
Yeah, watch for the Sixth Circuit to see what they do. Either there's an obligation to clean the voter rolls or there isn't. So we're waiting a decision in Pilf versus Benson.
Yeah. All right. Well, you come back anytime. J. Christian Adams, president of the Public Interest Legal Foundation. Always appreciate you. And thank you for rolling up your sleeves and fighting for us, sir. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks.
All right. Governor Whitmer after the break here on the Steve Gruber Show.